Hello, I'm Sonia, and here we are at the first session on what this is about women and also the natural order in which we used to look at things. Okay, so we'll start off by asking you a question. Have you ever wondered in the Bible why it talks a lot about how women should dress, about modesty, and it talks about being quiet and gentle and having a holy contact, being submissive and caring for the home, serving others, having good use of word, being truthful and talking truthfully, being a person who can be trusted, talks about that for women, being actually prudent. It also talks a lot about being a hard worker and doing the right thing and having a good reputation, and also about internalising godly biblical wisdom. There are a lot of things that we know when I search the scriptures. They're some of the main things that the scriptures talk about for women. Also, it encourages older women to encourage younger women to love their husbands and their children. So, and it also encourages women to be like a shepherd for other women that are going through emotional trauma or pain. So being there for others in that regard. So, when I look at all the scriptures, that's sort of like a summary. But we will read the scriptures that I'm talking about, and so you can see for yourself. But before we do that, what I really, really wanted to stress is that there are some things we need to know about the Lord and his character and the way things are before we can even contemplate how to put some of these principles into action. Because sometimes you can look at them and think, well, they're hard-ass and they're difficult and they could appear quite unjust, like remaining quiet or being quiet and gentle. It's like, well, what about if we have an opinion, and what about if we want to speak? And so there's things like that which it can cause lots of questioning, and there can be blanks or like misunderstandings, basically. It can seem unjust or impossible to do. That's the other thing. So how do we do it? And it can appear restrictive, boring, and not natural for women, because we do like to chat. So, but before we unpack all that, natural order has to be in place. And first of all, we need to know that we are totally loved by our Creator, that we aren't lesser, and that we aren't subservient, and we weren't put on this earth just for men. First of all, one of the scriptures is Genesis 2:21, and it talks about it's not good that a man should be alone, and he needs a suitable helper, which is Eve. Now, when you look at it in context of mankind being man and woman, it wasn't right just to have man, because man and women make mankind complete. So in order for a man to have balance, you needed a woman, and there's different aspects of the Father and the different aspects of Jesus, masculine and feminine. Mankind needs to be made up of males and females, but the main emphasis is that it's mankind, so it takes two types of people or two genders to make it complete. So we are one. So it's in the context of community and being one. That's the number one thing. And also, Jesus, the way he was with women, the creator of the universe, he was there in the beginning when he became man and was fully man and fully human. He walked on the earth. What did he do when the biggest, like in Christianity, the biggest event was the resurrection. And when he resurrected, who did he appear to first? And when you look at that, it was women. It was women at the tomb. he trusted women who, in that society at that time, didn't have a voice, or their testimony wasn't trusted. And he trusted them to go and tell the other disciples that he is risen. And he trusted women. So there's many incidences where he honoured women and saw them as equal and treated them with respect. And he modelled that for all of mankind. He's the reason Christianity exists. It's all about Jesus. It's about Jesus dying on the cross and rising again on the third day. And with that, he died. The natural realm died, and we died with him. Our life died with him, and we rose with him into a new life. And that's what all of Christianity is about: the resurrection of Jesus, and about him conquering death through that resurrection, so that we can enter into eternal life. So when you think of that huge thing in Christianity, him trusting women and him honouring women and having them as part of him when he walked around, women attended to him day and night, they funded his ministry, they were there. And also when he very first started out his ministry, he talked to the woman at the well. Well, one, she was a Samaritan woman. Two, she was a woman that had had 5 husbands. And she was shunned by her society, and Jews didn't like Samaritans. So there was, one she was Samaritan, one she was a shunned woman, and he spoke to her knowing that she would go and tell everyone about him, and that's how he launched his ministry, his public ministry. That was the pinnacle. That's when he very first revealed, or she knew, she said, "You must be the Messiah, you're the one." He revealed that he was the Messiah to this woman. And there are many instances of Jesus honouring women. The Gentile woman who had great faith, her daughter was not well, was possessed by an evil spirit. And this woman, Jesus was there first and foremost to the Jews. The Gentiles came later with Paul, but his ministry was to the Jews. She was a Gentile woman asking him, and she had faith in Jesus. And she asked Jesus for a favour to heal her daughter, and he recognised her as a woman having great faith, and he did what she asked. Even though he wasn't sent to the Jews, he was moved by her faith. He was moved by the fact that she had the boldness to approach him. And so she was honoured. There was instances of many times. But when we look at it as a polarised men versus women, or what men can get in life and what women can get in life, and it's where we're against each other, then it all doesn't flow. The other thing we need to remember too is that the relationship between a man and a woman is very holy, and the whole union and the sexual relationship that they have is very, very special, because it actually represents the relationship between Jesus and the church. So it's a holy mystery. It was about how Jesus laid his life down for the church, and because of that great love, the church submit to Jesus. They look to him and they honour him and they lift him up and see him as precious and see him as the source of their life, and they're grateful to him. So they go with him, they yielded to him. And that is the relationship between a woman and a man, is that the man, it says, men lay your life down for your wife, just like Jesus laid his life down for the church. So men love their wives like Jesus loved the church, and women submit like the church submits to Jesus. Now, we're not in a slavic relationship with Jesus. It's not slavic, but it is slavic in the true sense, in the good sense, that we're either a slave to sin or a slave to righteousness. If we're a slave to righteousness, that means that we are happily moving in that way of life, having that way of life, laying down the way we see it and following another, yielding to another. That's what we do when we say we're Christians. We're yielding to another. Our old spirit is laid down, is dead, and our new spirit in Christ raises with him and is yielded to him. It's the mystery. It's a holy mystery. And unless you really get this, you don't understand the whole men and women thing, because it doesn't make sense, because the natural mind is hostile to the things of God. So it's a spiritual mystery, it's a spiritual reality, and it is reality. If we believe this, we either believe this or we don't. It's not a religious code. This is not a set of principles we live our life by. It's actually something we believe, and faith is belief. So if we're believing this, then we live in it. So we live it. So we're actually, but until you believe in the Spirit, believe what Jesus is saying, and yield to him, then you're not going to understand it, because it is a spiritual mystery. That's right, and it doesn't make sense to the natural world, because the natural world says, yeah, but you've got to look after yourself, you've got to do this, you've got to get work, you've got to make sure that you're provided for and protected, and it's up to you. And so therefore you'll be looking out for your rights, you'll be protecting yourself. So when you enter into a marriage, you're loving that person as long as that person is loving you. It's a kind of a contract, or you do this, I'll do that, and when I if I'm not getting what I want, then I may end it. It's not working for me. It's different to the way of a Christian marriage. And so it's a spiritual mystery. We have to understand it in those terms. So that's Jesus. And the other thing as well is Jesus is the source, is the source of all things. So when it talks about Jesus being the head of the church, he is the source, like the source of a river which life flows through to the church. So he's like the top of the river. He's the river of life, and it flows down to the church. So he's the head. He's the part is from which all life comes from. He's the head, and it flows to the church. Without Jesus, without the head, we wouldn't have the life. And how the natural order is that he created, in the beginning, created man first, and woman was created out of man, because she's part of man. But they also, children come from a woman. So the man needs a woman, because children come through her, and then the children grow up and they are men or women. So the source comes from Jesus through to the man who was created first, and then through to the woman. And that, when you see it like that, as source, not power and control, the leadership in the world is very much, when I get into power, or I'm above you, you're under me, you do as I say. And you, when you're in leadership, it's like you get to do more, and you get to say more, and the others are more like plebs under you. And often the way of leadership in the world is like man rules over man, like people rule over, or they lord over. You will be my servant, you do as I say, and it's all about me, and I get my own way. Whereas in the leadership in the church with Jesus, he was a servant. He led by serving. He laid his life down for others. He lifted others up. He treated others with respect. So he didn't need us. We need him, but he loves us. And it's a similar thing. That's how a marriage works. Women submit to their men because they love them. So they willfully go along with them. So that's the first little section. I hope you understood and know where I'm going with this. There's still quite a few other things to go. So we'll talk about that next.